a lot of trainers don't want to call themselves just a PT anymore. A trainer is someone who's task orientated, kind of tells someone what to do and provides them with all of the information needed to complete the task. But when it comes to a coach is somebody who's trying to facilitate greatness for somebody. In this day and age, it's just really cool to call yourself a coach, but there's not a lot of actual people out there adopting that coaching methodology where they're empowering their clients. And there's a lot of trainers out there that are trying to create dependency, tell their clients what they need to do, and essentially like taking a lot of the power of decision making and adjustments and stuff away from that client, where a coach is somebody that's going to be like, okay, so where are we at now? Where do we want to go? What are the things that need to be improved on? And how are we going to navigate those and troubleshooting those together? I remember times when I guess I was more quote unquote a trainer. I was taking their problems home with me and they were surfacing at times that they shouldn't be surfacing. I remember being out for dinner with my wife and all I could do was think about what was going on with a particular client and the results that they weren't getting and the frustrations that they were having. And one of the biggest shifts that I made was have those conversations with your client about themselves, about their situation, about where they're at and where they want to go and what they think the solution is to those problems. Because before that, it was this top-down kind of relationship where they were trying to please their coach. Their coach was probably not effective at communicating, and that left an environment where we weren't transparent, we weren't honest, and things were getting left on the table. And that left both parties frustrated, and it was starting to kind of eat me up. So I guess as a coach who wants longevity, as you want your business to last and you want to be fulfilled as well, you need to be able to have these conversations and have these plans and strategies with a lot of input from that client so that you can kind of be at ease to a degree. You got a lot of clients, there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of obstacles, and there's a lot of different plans of attack to help, overcome whatever it is that's getting in the way. I remember training with a client who was in that mindset, kind of coaching space, providing courses and, development programs for personal trainers. That, she said to me, you should do this mindset and coaching course. And I was like, it sounds a bit weird. It sounds like it's not for me. And she actually said to me, like, there's a lot of those things that you do without even knowing. Like you adopt a lot of the principles that we teach. It's just you're unaware of them. And that was the first time where I was like, okay, maybe I should be aware of these systems and be aware of these things to make myself a better communicator. The ability to ask questions, or the value of asking really good questions, and then the value of listening, and making sure that if you're going to ask a question, that you ask that question with the idea that you're going to listen to the answer. You're not just asking it for the sake of talking and then just making it all about you. So it was about, just prompting questions and selecting your words properly and making sure that you're asking a question with the idea that you're going to get some, I guess, like collaboration, some discovery of thoughts, and making sure that we're creating that environment to make sure that the client is honest to you. If you can't ask effective questions and you're in that situation where like you're assuming or you're asking closed-ended questions, you're always going to get no, good, yes, everything's great, those kind of things, rather than something that's going to explore someone's mind, where it's like, tell me how you're going with this. What do you think about that? Tell me 3 things that you feel like you're really thriving with at the moment. And it's like, tell me a couple of things where you feel like you're maybe not thriving with and that we might need to put a bit of work on. And it's like, and what could we do in this area to overcome this? And being able to ask those questions allows you to have those conversations, but it doesn't really go anywhere unless you can listen. The next thing from there was like adopting a model to have great conversations. So we have the REACH model. So the REACH model stands for rapport, explore, action, clarify, honor. So if we take this system and we can adopt this in a face-to-face setting, we've adopted it as a hybrid model in our check-in, you can really start to create a system to navigate what's going really well and what's needs room for improvement with a client. Exploring is about exploring what's going well, what's not going well. Creating some form of action is about what are the areas that we need to work on. What are the areas that are going to continue to move us towards the goalposts. Clarifying is about making sure that coach and the client are on the same page. Just words are the same, but they're interpreted very very differently. I could speak in a certain way. Every single person in this room is going to interpret that in a different way. So we have to make sure that we're both on the same page. So clarification is everything. And then the last one's honoring. So it's like, we're engaging in a conversation, we're creating action, and we want to make sure that that is going to happen. So we have to, as coaches, be able to honor what that person is saying and say, yep, you know what, I'm really confident that we've had a great conversation today. We're going to work on this strategy, and I can't wait to hear it the next time I see you. And it's sending that client off with that confidence, having that conversation with their coach and having a system and a structure so that they're going to overcome this thing that's in their way. Once we have those conversations, they start to manifest everywhere, and you don't need to really kind of consciously think of that reach model. Like a lot of coaches and a lot of the staff that we work with, and I know a lot of my clients, they know when I'm kind of taking that process, and they're almost like, stop doing this to me, like stop going through that process. But once you kind of know how to have that conversation with people, it's really easy. It's like create the right environment. Always make sure we navigate what's going well, because it explores their mind and opens things up to be honest. And then it's like giving them the opportunity to give you some feedback. And then when you want to give feedback, because I know a lot of trainers do, so just ask for permission. Ask for permission to open up that platform so that that person is listening to you and receiving that information too. Because we're enthusiastic, we're coaches, we want to give as much as we can. But sometimes we have to ask that permission to receive, before we give. Another really valuable resource that we have is that motivational interviewing, or a hybrid version of that motivational interview. Getting into a position where we can navigate, motivators to change and motivators not to change, and weighing up where that client is at, and just, discussing, what the worst case scenario is, but also what the best case scenario is, and getting that person to, essentially realize where they are at right now and where they want to go. A lot of the time, life gets busy. We have these goals, we have these intentions, but we get distracted from what we're wanting to do or what we came to work with a coach for in the first place. And the client loses touch with that. And we can have these acute coaching strategies, reach model, effective questioning, those kind of things. But sometimes they're not enough, and we need to use a deliberate strategy to bring that client back and actually acknowledge where they're at now and where they want to go. And sometimes that can be a really kind of difficult conversation, but I think what separates good coaches from bad PTs, or even good PTs, is the ability to have those conversations with a client. And yeah, they might be a little bit awkward per se, but it's like if you use the right language and you go into it with the right intent, it's like you're coming out of that with the best intentions. And I think that that's the number one thing. We always talk about having integrity, and part of having integrity is about, having the hard conversations and being that specialist that that client hired you for. Wrapping up the coaching element, the last thing we need to talk about is goal setting and habit formation. So both of these things are integral when it comes to like vision and clarity and action, because we need to make sure that that client knows exactly why they're putting one foot in front of the other and why they're on this path and not on that path. So we have to be very proficient with goal setting. A lot of trainers are great with goal setting for, training, which is good from a client perspective. Probably talk about it for their business in another video. But essentially, we need to have, short, mid, and long-term goals for that client. They need to be able to see, what the best case scenario is, what life looks like, what they're thriving towards. Going a little bit deeper, we need to kind of think about why and, all of that kind of stuff. When it comes to habit formation, or habit tracking, we really want to kind of work those goals down into a micro perspective. And it's like, okay, what do we need to do on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis to tick those boxes to go, right, I'm moving towards where I need to go. And that is essentially coaching 101. And you can put these habit tracking or habit formation strategies into your check-in. It can be something as easy as like tick boxes, affirmation for doing a task, or we use color coding and conditional formatting in our check-in sheet. So green is good, green is a reward. Reward systems work really well for habit formation. It's these little things that really start to reinforce what you want your client to do. And obviously, we want to make sure that those habits are specific to those goals. And those goals should be unpacking what that client wants. And that is, if anything is on the table, what do they want? That's a little bit different to, I guess, when we talk about training. Training is just a task and getting that client to complete that task, and that trainer being the expert. So if you want to have better conversations with your client, a more open relationship, more trust and transparency, and essentially get better outcomes and leave your work and leave your mind when it comes to your business in the office, so that you can go and enjoy dinner with your wife and not think about these things at 10 o'clock at night, you need to adopt some of these strategies and transition yourself through this mindset of trainer to coach.